This Read 180 topic is made possible by a grant from
Kellogg's Rice Krispies, who reminds you, books are totally overflowing with cool stuff. Get in on it. Wake up to the amazing world of reading.
And by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and the annual financial support of viewers like you.
When a news story makes the front page, you know it's big. And some stories are beyond big. They capture the attention of the entire world. Nathan is going to take you through 4 powerful moments in history that kept everyone glued to their newspapers, radios, and TVs. Take it away, Nathan.
Thanks, Ty. What would you do if a wall went up right through your city and you weren't allowed to travel beyond it? What if your family or friends lived on the other side? Well, that's pretty much what happened in Berlin, Germany after World War II. Watch this video and you'll see why that wall was one of the biggest stories of the 20th century.
A city divided.
1945. As the world celebrated the end of World War II, Berlin, Germany was becoming a divided city. The western side was free and democratic, but the eastern side was tightly controlled by Soviet communism. East Berliners streamed to the freedom of the West, but the Soviets stopped them by building the Berlin Wall in 1961. Many East Berliners still tried desperately to get to the West. They jumped, swam, or crawled through tunnels. More than 5,000 people risked their lives to escape, and almost 1,000 died. But the Berlin Wall continued to stand, a symbol of the tension between the Soviet Union and the free world, a standoff known as the Cold War. Politicians went to Berlin and spoke out against the wall. Ordinary people came to express their sadness, sometimes writing messages of protest. But would the wall ever come down? In 1985, there was a ray of hope. Mikhail Gorbachev became the Soviet leader and made reforms that slowly loosened the grip of communism in Eastern Europe. Thousands of East Berliners gathered at the wall, demanding change too. And many world leaders were behind them.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
Finally, it happened. On November 9, 1989, the East German government, backed by the Soviet Union, gave in and opened the gates. A few people climbed on the wall, and hundreds followed. Soon there were hammers and chisels. The armed guards were asked to leave as soldiers from the East and West joined hands. Within just a few days, the Berlin Wall came down, and soon after, the Cold War ended, not with a bang, but with a party. Unfortunately, some news stories don't have happy endings. People were shocked by this story about a demonstration in China that turned into a nightmare. When you watch the video, you'll see why the world got totally wrapped up in the spirit of those protests.
Face-off in China.
Spring 1989. The largest protest in the history of China. It started in April with a group of students marching through Beijing, the capital, crying for more freedom and an end to government corruption. At first, the strict Chinese government did nothing to stop the protest, and the peaceful demonstration grew. Thousands of students flocked to Beijing's Tiananmen Square, inspired by a sense of hope. They even erected a goddess of democracy as their tribute to freedom. Still, the government didn't react. As April turned into May, the spirit of protest spread across China. Teachers, farmers, and workers joined in. Then, on May 20th, the government took action. Truckloads of troops moved into the capital, but even that didn't stop the demonstrators. The next day, about 1 million Chinese rushed from their homes, clogging the streets, carrying banners, waving flags, and blocking the troops. On June 2nd, soldiers tried to march on Tiananmen Square. Again, they were driven back by the citizens. The protesters and the world wondered what would happen next. They got their answer the next day. Late in the night on June 3rd, thousands of troops stormed demonstrations all over the city. Tanks trampled the flimsy barricades in Tiananmen Square and plowed through the crowds. The soldiers shot at or crushed anything and anyone in their path. No one knows how many died that night or how many were arrested. But a nation was scared back into silence.
People make front page news for lots of different reasons. For doing great things, for doing terrible things, and in this case, a little of both. Everyone seems to have a different opinion about Eva Perón, but no one is ready to forget her. Watch.
Evita.
Evita. Madonna portrayed her in a movie. Her life story was a smash Broadway musical. And 50 years after her death, people still mourn her. Who was Evita? What made her so special? She grew up in poverty, but worked her way up to become a popular actress. And in 1946, when she was 26 years old, her new husband, Juan Perón, became Argentina's president. She was beautiful, glamorous, and was becoming the most powerful woman in the world. When she spoke, she and President Perón drew some of the largest crowds in Argentine history. She was loved because she reached out to people who others had ignored. She built hospitals, schools, homes for seniors, and she personally distributed food and clothing. With her help, Argentine women finally got the right to vote. But millions also hated Evita. Many believe she was the most influential part of the Perón government, a military dictatorship that stifled all opposition. President Perón jailed his opponents, outlawed freedom of the press, and made sure his image was everywhere, on billboards, posters, and pamphlets. Then, the young First Lady was stricken with cancer. She addressed the people one last time. A month later, Evita died. Millions mourned. People lined up for miles to view her body. With Evita gone, Juan Perón had lost his connection to the people. He was eventually forced out of office. But Evita will never be forgotten. The truth is that whether loved or despised, Evita still lives in the hearts and minds of millions.
September 11th, 2001.
On September 11, 2001, there were blue skies over the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center, the tallest buildings in New York City. No one inside could have imagined what that morning held in store for them, and for the rest of the country. At 8:45, a plane rocketed into one of the towers. At 9:03, another plane ripped through the second tower. A third plane struck the Pentagon in Washington, D.C., as a fourth crashed into a Pennsylvania field. Suicide terrorists had hijacked the passenger jets and turned them into guided missiles. By 10:30, the Twin Towers had collapsed. Thousands of people, covered with dust and debris, ran from the scene. As the world absorbed the shocking news, America began to shut down. The government ordered all planes out of the sky. Crowded public places were evacuated. The roads and subways in and out of New York City were closed, and millions scrambled to get home. Rescue workers searched the burning rubble for survivors, while doctors waited to treat them. But few survivors were found. In addition to 189 dead at the Pentagon and 44 in Pennsylvania, about 3,000 people died at the World Trade Center, including hundreds of heroic firefighters, police officers, and rescue workers. As the size of the tragedy sunk in, Americans came together. New Yorkers welcomed volunteers from across the country. Blood donors lined up for blocks. High schools collected clothing, food, and money for relief workers and victims. Millions gathered at candlelight vigils and memorials around the world. And thousands of rescue workers continued to labor around the clock to find survivors. President Bush praised these heroic volunteers, whose spirit of dedication and unity inspired the world. In the days and weeks that followed, they gave hope to a nation that had changed forever.
The good news is you are done with this topic and ready to move on. The bad news? There is none.